their energy efficiency programs. It was designed with stakeholder input to better target services to middle-income customers with the help of their host communities. So this presentation is going to cover the reasoning behind Efficient Neighborhoods Plus, its design, and some of the results. So Tammy will be talking about that, and we hope that this webinar will be interesting and food for thought as municipalities are part of the planning process for the new 3-year statewide efficiency plans that are currently being put together under the Green Communities Act. So for those of you that don't know, the Green Communities Act also, in addition to requiring the 3-year energy efficiency plans, it created the Green Communities Division, which is us here, and we provide energy services for all 351 cities and towns for all different types of energy matters. We have got 4 regional coordinators, and if you are a municipality or a municipal entity, you don't already know who your regional coordinator is, please take down the name of the appropriate person. They can be very helpful in all sorts of ways for all sorts of energy projects. Not just for designated green communities, which is our sort of program that we're most well known for, but we do provide all sorts of other services and programs, some of which you can see here on this slide. I won't go through all of them, but I would bring your attention to the bottom of the slide where our website address is. So keep an eye on that so that you can be sure, and I understand the slides are not advancing properly for attendees. Okay, so we'll hang on for a second and see if we can remedy that. Okay, so we should be okay now. So why don't we go back actually so you can see the regional coordinator slide for those who might want to take down the names of those people. And then, as I was saying, I'm not going to run through everything in the next slide, but I would draw your attention to the website address at the bottom. We do frequent updates of things that are coming up and going on. You can keep informed that way, and even better, you can sign up for an e-blast, which comes out probably twice a month on average, that will really keep you up to date on what's going on in green communities. We're recording this presentation, and both the slides and the audio will be available on our website in about probably by the end of the week. We also will have a Q&A at the end. You can type in questions through the section on your screen that allows you to do that during the presentation, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end. We'll also provide a full written Q&A on our website within the next couple of weeks. And you can, if there's any of these slides that you would like to keep for future reference, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that there is a little camera icon in the top right of your screen that you can click on to save any slides to look at later. We're also going to have names of contacts at the various utilities, the program administrators of the utilities, and other contacts and websites that's listed at the end of the presentation. So with that, we're going to launch in with an initial poll question. So we just would like to know, and you can, Charlie Tuttle is our technician here from the Green Communities Division, and he's going to tally these results, but if you can just let us know who are you out there today. Are you a municipality or another public entity? Are you an energy efficiency contractor, a nonprofit organization, homeowner, or renter? So just take a couple seconds and answer that question, and then Charlie will provide the results.
Okay, with just about 70% of those voting, we've got 70% municipalities or public entities, 0 energy efficiency contractors, 27% nonprofits, and 9% are homeowners.
Okay, great, thanks Charlie. And with that, we're going to go into Tammy's presentation, so I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Burr from Opinion Dynamics.
Great. Thank you very much. So Charlie, I think you're going to give me control. Is that right?
Yep. Just giving that to you right now.
Okay. Let me show my screen, and then I'm going to put this up into the full presentation mode. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So thanks very much for the introduction and the chance to talk with you today about the EN Plus initiative, the Efficient Neighborhoods Plus. We're going to talk a little bit today about the initiative background and design, which my company, Opinion Dynamics, played a role in. So the Massachusetts program administrators, and I'll be referring to them as PAs. Again, these are the electric and gas utilities and energy efficiency service providers in Massachusetts. They sponsor this initiative, and they contracted with us to help them with the initiative design as well as evaluation. So what I'm going to talk about today is what went into the design, how we helped the PAs select communities for inclusion in this initiative, then looking at some of the evaluation results at a fairly high level to show what impact it had, and a few different insights from marketing and outreach, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Okay. Trying to get this to move along here. There we go. So first up, the background in design. This initiative was really born out of the Appreciative Inquiry Summit that was led by National Grid back in the spring of 2012. And a main objective was to figure out a way to ensure that low and moderate income residents in Massachusetts were being reached by energy efficiency programs, the programs that many Massachusetts PAs were already running. The PAs have programs to reach low-income customers, and they feel that the existing programs are thought to reach the kind of moderate to high-income program customers very well. But there's some thoughts that perhaps there was a gap, and that a particular initiative or program that could reach out to the low to moderate income customers might be needed. So this initiative was included in the statewide 3-year plan. And it was rolled out statewide. However, it was really community focused. So it was conducted in a number of communities across the state and across all Massachusetts PAs. A little bit more background. This initiative builds on the existing Mass Save Home Energy Services program. And that program is a home audit program in which an energy efficiency professional will go into homes, conduct an audit, and identify areas where the homeowner or the resident could make improvements to save energy. And so it was really building on that existing program, but making changes to it to hopefully reach the low to moderate income customers, because these customers have some particular barriers to participation, and some of these are listed on the slide. Many of them live in housing stock that is older and has some pre-weatherization barriers, things that must be addressed like knob and tube wiring before changes can be made to that home. Many of these customers also live in multi-unit structures. In that case, the landlords, the owners of the homes are the ones who have a financial incentive to make change to the structure. However, often they're not paying the electric bill or the gas bill, so they don't necessarily have a motivation to do it in terms of energy savings. So we call that the classic split incentive problem. So essentially, these customers, in addition to, say, their income, they have other burdens that they face. One of the problems with traditional, or one of the challenges, I should say, of a traditional energy efficiency program that target select customer groups is verifying that those customers are the only ones who are participating. And in this case, since they're targeting low to moderate income customers, the ideal way to qualify people would be by income, and have people have to verify their income before they can participate. But this can also discourage participation. So to avoid that barrier, EN Plus, this initiative, rather than targeting customers and making them verify their income, we helped the PAs to target communities and run this initiative in communities that had a high concentration of the target groups. And we're going to talk quite a bit more about that in just a moment. But in addition to targeting, this initiative also offered enhanced incentives. That was the other unique feature, and how it was different from the traditional HES program. So this slide here just provides a brief summary of the enhanced incentives that were offered to the participants of the EN Plus initiative compared to the existing HES program. And you can see that there's some incentives for additional measures, such as common area lighting, as well as some higher incentives overall. Okay, so as I mentioned, this initiative targeted communities rather than customers. In this slide provides a map that illustrates the communities that were included as part of the initiative. And it may be kind of hard to see the different color differences, but if you look up and you see that the North Adams and Adams, those stars are blue, which indicates that the entire town was targeted as part of the initiative, whereas all the other communities, the program or the initiative targeted just particular neighborhoods or census block groups actually within that town. So block groups that held a significant percentage of the target customer groups. But as you can see, it was really run across the state. The initiative used a number of different marketing and outreach tactics to reach customers in the targeted communities. And they really did vary across communities. There were certain tactics, as you can see, such as mailers that were used in all communities. But after that, the PAs really tried to pick and choose tactics that they thought were most appropriate given the situation in each community. And this slide just provides kind of a summary of the different types of tactics that were used in the different communities. Okay, before moving on, we think this is another good time to have a poll question. So I'm going to turn it back over, I think, to Charlie or Lisa, who might be conducting this poll.
Okay, so see if I can pull the poll question back up again. Okay, so with all of the voting in, 25% is lack of awareness, 25% landlord-tenant issues, 8% money incentives, 8% ability to finance, and 33% thinks it's going to be too much of a hassle. Thanks, everybody. Back to you.
Great, thank you. So I think the poll results are pretty consistent with what the PAs were thinking when they went into this initiative, that there's a variety of different types of barriers to these customers. And it was important to design an initiative that could try to overcome those barriers. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about the community selection process that was used to overcome those barriers and select communities that were appropriate for this initiative. As you can see, a number of considerations really guided our selection process. First and foremost, the PAs wanted to ensure that we identified customers within the community that met the qualification criteria and avoided customers who wouldn't qualify. As I noted, again, we're targeting communities and not necessarily customers, specific customers within the community. Everybody who lived in that community was eligible to participate. Therefore, it was really important to identify communities that had a high concentration of the target customers, but at the same time didn't have a large number of customers that the program really was trying to target. So in addition to income, I should have mentioned that this program is targeting multifamily units, but ones that are in the range of 2 to 4 units. So this program really is altogether targeting low to moderate income customers who live in 1 to 4 unit structures. Again, the PAs have programs for the lower income customers as well as customers living in 5+ unit structures, but this one little sweet spot is an area that this initiative was really designed to address. So we next up, I guess with these objectives as the background, we engaged in a community selection process that combined a large amount of data with some mapping techniques to help us identify the communities that the program should target. Similar to other utilities across the country, Massachusetts PAs really have a variety of data sources about the customers, and we could use these data sources for our targeting. The data sources we used included census data, past burn participation data, segmentation data, geographic sources as well. And we relied on all these data sources to combine them and create a fairly large and flexible database that we could analyze to help us with the community selection process. And this slide essentially just shows a nice summary of those data sources and how they all came together. As we can see here, we've got some census data, we've got the geographic data from MassGIS, the past program databases so that we could identify people living in the target communities who participated before, as well as information about the utility customers so that we could focus on those customers who we wanted not to target, such as low-income and multifamily customers. Combined, we had a nice we combined all these different sources into a nice micro-targeting database that we could use to help the PAs identify communities. Once we had this database together, we really used a three-step approach. So step one was to take that database and conduct some initial data analysis to narrow the set of communities. And during the first step, we analyzed the data looking for a high concentration of those low to moderate income customers, as well as customers living in 1 to 4 unit structures. Once we identified those communities, we did a more in-depth analysis. We called the second step looking at these pre-qualified communities, as we call them, and really using that step to develop a final list the PAs would use for this initiative. So I want to talk about each of these steps a little bit more in depth. As I've already noted, the target communities have to have a high percentage of customers with incomes that fell in the between 61 and 100% of the state median. We also wanted a high percentage of 1 to 4 unit buildings. At the same time, we wanted to avoid high concentrations of low-income program eligible customers or customers who are living in 5+ unit buildings. That was somewhat tricky because we had to come up with actual, I should say, criteria and narrowing criteria that would fit into our threshold. So with the step one, this map shows essentially the communities that qualified based on those criteria. And what you can see is that if you apply a criteria so that 30% of the households in a community have to have incomes between 60 and 100% of the state median, and 30% must also be living in units, or 30% or fewer of the units are 5+ unit structures. We have 311 census block groups across the state of Massachusetts that meet those criteria, and those are spread across 112 towns. Total, we've got a little over 43,000 households across these census block groups in these towns. So there's really a nice set of communities and households for the PAs to work with. Next up was looking at the in-depth analysis. So once we had the 112 census block groups identified, we pulled in additional data on prior participation. Again, if you've got a community or a block group that already has participated at a high rate, that may not be the one where the PAs need to focus their efforts. We also wanted to look at the percentage of renters versus owners, thinking that trying to pull more renters into this program was a good idea. We also looked at things like building stock and other characteristics, age, size of the home, things along those lines that might influence participation. This map illustrates the result of our step 2 in the community selection process, and this shows Watertown. This is a map of the entire town of Watertown with census block groups color-coded based on the percentage of households with incomes between the target range of 61 to 100% of the state median. And you can see those hatched block groups are the ones that qualify based on the criteria we had set up for targeting for this program. So the Watertown has a range of customers, a range of different households living in it. There's two particular block groups that would be focused on for this program based on the criteria. Okay, step 3. Once we had already identified the pre-qualified communities and then worked with PAs to determine which particular communities they wanted to target as part of the initiative, we provided them with actual maps and customer lists that they could use for targeting and marketing. We took the list of customers they had living in that community, removed the customers who were on a low-income rate code and therefore they qualified for the existing low-income program, past participants since they'd already participated in the program, and then also customers who are living in multi-unit or multi-family structures since those customers too would qualify for a different program. We provided that list to the PA so they could use that when they actually went out into the field and they marketed the program. Now I want to talk about some of the results that we have from this initiative. We conducted a number of different research activities to help the PAs understand the effectiveness of this initiative. We examined the program processes and how well they ran, and then we also examined the impact of the program in terms of its participation and its energy savings. And as you can see, we conducted a number of different research activities so that we could really provide a complete understanding of the initiative's success from its program processes to the impact within the community. The initiative was really fairly successful. Overall, in the target communities, our research found that 22% of the community members were actually aware of the initiative. That's this middle bar here. So this one here shows the total number of, the bar on the far left shows the total number of eligible customers across the targeted communities. And within those communities, 22%, according to the surveys that we did in those communities, were actually aware of the EN Plus initiative. So the marketing was really quite effective, at least in making customers aware. And then we found that, according to our analysis of the participation database, 7% of the customers living in those target communities actually participated by having an audit completed. So the question is, was this any different than what the PAs might have achieved under the traditional HES program? Recall that this initiative was built on the existing HES program. It didn't have this community targeting, didn't have the enhanced incentives, didn't have some of the more on-the-ground marketing and engagement techniques. So what we did was compare the results of this initiative in these targeted communities to what was going on in similar like communities at the same time, but those that didn't have the enhanced marketing or enhanced incentives. And what we found is that this initiative actually did result in an increase in participation and an increase in energy saving. So overall, we found across all the communities that were targeted, we had a lift of 69% in terms of the number of energy assessments. So you can see there was 927 total energy audits or energy assessments completed through the initiative. Of those, 636 would not have happened if it hadn't been for the enhanced incentives and the enhanced marketing. This next line here talks about the number of projects. Those are things that are recommended by the auditors when they go assess a home. They identify areas that residents might make changes to or make energy efficient improvements to save energy. And of the 927 who had audits completed, 248 undertook the recommendations made by the auditors and did some additional work. And as you can see, that was a significant increase in what would have been achieved outside of the program or under the regular HES program, a list of 188 projects. Combined, this resulted in an increase in energy savings of 74% in terms of kilowatt hours, 84% in terms of gas savings, and overall an increased savings of 72% in terms of MMBTUs. And as I have mentioned, this program really was targeting the low to moderate income customer group, and those low-income customers who are on a low-income rate code had their own programs. So if one of those customers contacted the program in response to the marketing for this program, they were actually channeled into the existing low-income programs. They were directed to those programs, and our evaluation identified 91 customers that were directed to that program. So the program was fairly successful at increasing participation and increasing energy savings. But as I noted, it really was trying to target certain customers. Despite the fact that it was using a community targeting approach, it really wanted to see an increase in participation among certain types of customers that might not be participating under the regular HES program. So to determine if those were the folks who comprised the lift in participation and lift in savings, we conducted some additional surveys where we determined the characteristics of the participants in the EN Plus program, compared that to the general population of those target communities, and then also compared that to a survey that we had done in 2010 with participants in the standard HES program. And here you can see that at least in terms of income, this program, the EN Plus initiative, was relatively successful at reaching a higher percentage of the low to moderate income customers than the standard HES program. It still didn't quite reach the numbers that existed in the general population, or actually exceeded the numbers that were in the general population. But it was a significant increase over the 200, or the standard HES program, excuse me. Where the program was less successful was at reaching those residents of the 2 to 4 unit households. Here, that split incentive problem really is rather stubborn, and reaching the landlords and getting them to participate when they're not paying for the electric bill is a challenge, and it's one that continues, and this initiative just really wasn't successful at reaching. So we have a few insights on marketing, and I should note that our evaluation was not set up to test the relative effectiveness of the different outreach tactics that the PAs employed. As you recall, they used a number of different marketing and outreach tactics across the community, so that does give us some insight, but it's just really kind of more of a general assessment. And it really does appear that there's a couple of different outreach tactics that were most effective, and those were the in-person outreach and phone calls that happened within the communities. We've also found that word-of-mouth marketing was also fairly effective. If participants learned about the program from others who had participated, they were more likely to participate. We also found that customers who were exposed to more than one form of outreach were also more likely to participate. So again, this is kind of just some observations we had by looking at the different tactics employed in these communities and the relative participation rates. I should note that these outreach efforts were fairly intensive, and they involve a lot of I guess resource-intensive efforts, such as the in-person outreach, the phone calls, and the like. So though the program was quite successful, it does take significant resources to achieve these results. Okay, so that pretty much covers my presentation in terms of the background on the initiative, its design, and the results of the initiative, but would be happy to open it up for discussion at this time.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Tammy, for that. We did have some questions come in during the presentation, and we've got all those up on our screen.
There's only one that was kind of answered.
Okay, so it looks like looks like we only have one substantive question here, and is, how are the towns or CBGs, which I'm not sure what that stands for, but determined for the EN program rollout? Were all the fit in the income requirements targeted? So I think that Tammy covered that, but maybe Tammy, you want to go over it again just very briefly. I think it was a kind of a narrowing down exercise that you did.
Sure. So could you, you kind of faded out a little on that question. So they're interested in more information on how we narrowed down the towns that we targeted as part of the initiative?
Yeah, I think that the bottom line of the question was, did you include all the towns that could have been included, or
yes.
But I think that you did answer as the slides.
Got you. Okay, so yes, we had some targeting criteria. As I noted, we wanted to identify communities that had high concentrations of the target demographic groups and low concentrations of the groups that were not being targeted as part of this initiative. And through that selection process, we identified 112 communities that contain census block groups that would be qualified for this program. So that was our list of what we called pre-qualified communities, communities that met the targeting criteria. And then from that list, we further investigated those communities, took a deeper dive, a more in-depth look, and looked at other factors such as past program participation rates, percentage of low-income customers, things like that would qualify for other programs and therefore would not be targeted for this effort. And we eliminated communities. We also looked at existing relationships with community members, other initiatives that were already taking place, and the PAs looked at all these factors to identify the final list of communities that were targeted as part of this initiative.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining that again. So what, someone wants to know, what are the next steps for EN Plus? Will you be inviting another round of communities to participate? And I'm going to let Lynn Huckabee is here from our Energy Efficiency Division, and let me take a stab at that.
Hi, everyone. So EN Plus was an initiative that was proposed during the 2013 through 15 plans. So the program, sort of as it exists right now, probably isn't going forward, but we are in the process right now of planning for 2016 through 18. The Council, the Energy Efficiency Advisory Council recommendations to the program administrator will actually be submitted by March 31st. So we are in the process right now of taking input from people on just initiatives in general, and certainly the middle income market is an initiative or a group of people that we are still very interested in trying to target. So I certainly would recommend that you talk to your counselor, which is Brad Swing of the City of Boston, just to give him any kind of input on how you think that that the program administrators could target this particular market better, and if there is any opportunity to work with communities better. And I would also encourage you, if you have any interest in possibly replicating something like Green Communities, if you have any interest in basically partnering with your utility company, I would suggest that you contact them directly. We have some of the contact information that was on the presentation. So for instance, if you're in like Columbia Gas Territory, I highly recommend that you contact the people directly and talk to them about ways that you can work with them for outreach and for targeting the middle income market.
Great, thanks. And just to just to clarify, so Brad is the representative for municipalities on the Energy Efficiency Council. That's assuming that that's mostly who we have here for audience members. But I'm sure if you reached out to him, you know, it would get to the right source. So we have a number of questions here that we're probably going to need to consult with some folks, program administrators, perhaps, in order to answer. So we'll probably looks like we're going to answer probably the rest of these in writing on our website. And I don't think we have any others that we're going to be able to answer just kind of quickly here this afternoon. But I do want to thank everybody again. I just want to thank everybody again for participating in the webinar this afternoon. We'll have another one coming up. Our next Green Communities webinar will be in early April. The topic will be establishing an energy baseline, which is really a sort of targeting municipality, any municipality wants to establish a baseline, but it would be, I think, especially helpful for those that are considering applying for Green Communities designation in the October 2015 round. Definitely have to have an energy baseline in order to do criterion 3. So I think that's it for this afternoon. Hopefully you can get out and enjoy the weather that has turned in our favor, at least in my opinion. And with that, we'll say good afternoon. Thanks for participating.